Just check that that's where is it? Where is it? I can't find it. Where's it gone? Oh, hang on. Events. Where is it? There it is. Live. Excellent. Right, so I need to go into that. Okay. Right, we are live. Haha. Hi everyone. My name's Angie. I'm a witch, occultist, sound healer, many things. So one of the things I realised quite early on in this journey is there's a lot of people out there who, I don't know, because there's so much information out there on the internet about, you know, witchcraft, and not so much about occultism, but certainly witchcraft and paganism, and it's all very what's the word, kind of surface level. A lot of it is what I found, which is why I kind of do these deep dives into things like not just the Wheel of the Year, because there are so many magical days that kind of flow in between. It's like we had Walpurgisnacht and Beltane, but that energy doesn't finish. You know, it's like, well, Beltane's finished now. No, it carries on through to the next event, which is, that'll be Midsummer. That'll be, and that's coming around quicker than I thought it would. So yeah, so beginning today for 5 days is what the pagan Romans called Lemuria. So it's got nothing to do with the legends, the mythology around the landmass that was Lemuria. This is something completely different. So this was I like to think of it as a 5-day event, but the pagan Romans only ever celebrated 3 of the 5 days, because according to the Romans, even numbers were unlucky. I don't know why. They had some very funny ideas. In fact, there are some quite funny things in the rituals that they used to do for Lemuria, or I might say this wrong, so bear with me. Lemuralia. I don't know if I've said that right, but that's what it looks like. There were some very odd things that they used to do in this ancient pagan festival. So it was a day to commemorate, interact with, and deter the spirits. So they would perform rites to exorcise any malevolent ghosts of the restless dead, you know, if they were being haunted in their homes. So these what they called unwholesome spectres, or they were called the Lemuries, or larvae, which is quite, I don't like the sound of that. That sounds a bit yucky. They appeased them with chants and offerings. One of the offerings that they used to make was black beans. So I'll go into that a bit later, because it's quite funny what they used to do. So the 3 days of this festival were, when they used to celebrate, were the 9th, 11th and 13th of May. And during this time, in fact, the whole of May for the Romans was a big no-no. They didn't like May for some reason. I couldn't get to the bottom of why that was, but they considered it to be just a very unlucky month, so don't go there. But during Lemuria, all the temples were closed. no marriages were allowed, and yeah, they just did not like it. So I thought that was quite interesting. So Roman householders would give offerings to their deceased ancestors, just to make sure that they didn't, return to haunt them. And there was a poet called Ovid, and he used to write a lot about these Roman festivals. And one of his chronicles was called Fasti, and there was a section on the month of May where he discussed this festival. And there are different ideas about how the name came about, but his reasoning was that the festival got its name from Lemuria, which was a festival named for Remus, which is Romulus's twin brother, who he killed after founding Rome. It's charming, isn't it? And Remus, in true, ghostly fashion, haunted his brother after he was killed. And I don't think he would have asked his brother. I think he would have demanded that his brother tell all his friends to make future generations honour him by giving offerings. I don't blame him. His brother kills him, and what are you going to do? So yeah, Romulus complied and gave the name Lemuria to the day on which worship is paid to buried ancestors. So it, according to Ovid, so there's no date as to when that festival was, but I'm guessing it was probably the 9th. And then it kind of, like all these things, they evolve and they grow. And eventually Lemuria became Lemuria. Although there's lots of infighting about, well, that's not the real place where the name came from, like they always do. So there's another theory that the name Lemuria comes from the name of the kind of the unwholesome spectre, the Lemures, Lemures. So if anyone out there speaks Latin or Italian, I don't know if that's the pronunciation, but so I actually think it's more likely to be named after the spirits that they were trying to banish, essentially. And there are different, there's like a hierarchy of spirits during this. I think there's 7 different spirits that some they would ask favour from, and others they would try and get rid of. Don't know if there's a connection problem. It's connecting. So I'll just carry on. So one of the things that they would... Oh, hang on, unmute. It's alright, there was a connection problem. Sorry about that, guys. So one of the things that the Romans would do as part of their ritual for Lemuria was they would take off their sandals and walk bare feet while making a sign to ward off evil. So this sign, if you put your thumb between your first 2 fingers, that's the sign for... Oh, what is going on with this thing? It keeps trying to connect. Don't know what that's about. I don't know if you can still hear me. So that's the sign, that's the symbol, the sign that they would use. I'll have to unmute again because it keeps dropping the connection. Don't know why. So this thumb sticking up between the index and middle fingers, this was called the mano fica. Literally means fig hand. So this is what they would use to ward off the evil spirits. Oh, it did it again. Keeps dropping out. So they would then clean themselves. They would go through a cleansing. And then they would take these black beans and they would literally spit these black beans out of their mouth as they were looking away from where they would imagine the spirit was. And they would say, "These I cast, with these beans I redeem me and mine." So the idea of these, the colour black is well known in, like, for banishing anything like that. So the idea was that as they were spitting out these beans in the direction of where the spirit was, the spirit would then follow these beans like a yellow brick road, and they would leave their home. I think it's just quite very specific. And yeah, I just thought that was just fascinating, really. So they would be left with, I suppose, that the spirits that they could then call favours from. So another interesting little thing that they would do is they would get pieces of bronze, they would wash them, and then they would go around banging these pieces of bronze. And they would ask the ghosts to leave their home 9 times, 9 being the number of endings, which is that makes sense. And they would say, "Ghosts of my fathers, go forth," and then that's it. They'd say that 9 times, obviously. So it was quite an involved ritual. But other things that they would do, so they wouldn't just be warding off negative influences, they would also negotiate with the less malevolent spirits. So they would negotiate with them, and as we know, oh, what was that? Oh, that was weird. Oh. Oh, that's weird. What is going on there? That's weird.
Yeah, hang on.
It was.
Maybe the powers that be don't like what Angie's talking about.
Yeah, really bizarre.
And also, Angie,
yeah.
Jackie said on the channel that it's a bit quiet. So can you turn your volume up?
You are a tad quiet, Angie. Yeah, I don't know if you can speak closer to the mic to increase your volume, but yeah, I can hear you, and we can hear you, but it's just quiet.
Is that better?
You're going to have to say a bit more than that.
Testing, testing. 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2 3.
Yeah, that's a lot better for me.
Yeah. Everyone else?
Is that better for you, Dolly?
It's a lot better for me, and hopefully it's a lot better for Jackie.
Okay.
Jackie's back on, so hopefully. Yeah,
Cool.
give us a bit of blurb. Oh, I've spelled that wrong. My predictive text is turned off. Everything is magic.
Abracadabra.
There we go.
Strange things like this do happen on when we do our events and stuff.
Really? Because
Yeah.
it's never happened before. So we've done hundreds now of these shows, and we've never once had this issue. So it might be something at your end.
It's
But
magic.
It was strange because I couldn't connect. I
Yeah.
was struggling for connection, and I was getting connection issues.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's there. So you'll have to restart the recording.
Yes.
So there it starts recording, and then if you can carry on from where you were so rudely interrupted
By
the
spirit.
gremlins.
Rudely interrupted by spirit. Okay. Let's have a look. So, yeah, so when they were...
Just to say, the last thing I heard was to do with black beans.
Oh, okay. Black beans, yes. Yeah, the black beans is really... The Romans were a bit bonkers, actually. They would use black beans to banish naughty spirits, or what they would deem as naughty spirits, by spitting them at the spirits, like, in a line, so then the spirits would, like, follow these black beans out of their home. They were quite mad, the Romans. So, and they would also, while they were spitting these beans, they would have to look away from the spirit as well. They weren't allowed to look directly at the spirit. They would say, "These I cast with these beans. I redeem me and mine." And yeah, by doing that, the spirits would then leave their home. So I just think they're very, very strange, the Romans. And then they would go around banging pieces of bronze together, just in case there were any left. I'm guessing maybe some spirits don't like black beans. But it wasn't just about, warding off negative influences, but the less naughty spirits they would negotiate with through. As we know, in Rome, seers were a commonplace thing. So they're the ones that communicated with the dead. So it's not like it was something they didn't do. So this interaction between humans and spirit was encouraged. Once they got rid of the naughty ones, they would then go in and talk to and negotiate with the nice spirits. So it's like the multi layers of how the Romans regarded their dead is quite fascinating. So as people say, so what's the point of that then, Ange? How does that then reach all the way from then till now? Where we are now. So what I find fascinating, so as we mark the Wheel of the Year, so we've just had Walpurgisnacht and Beltane, which is a banish and a celebration of the new. This is kind of the same thing. It's a bit like, I did a talk on I can't remember how to pronounce it now. Thargelia is a Greek celebration, similar to this and similar to Walpurgisnacht and Beltane, where you have a banish, a clearing, and then you celebrate the new. So at this time, so Beltane is like a portal energy, and it goes all the way through to Midsummer, where there's another portal. So this cycle, the cyclical, or it's actually a spiral. It's not a circle, it's a spiral. So things spiral in and back out again. It's the cyclical nature of all things, the microcosm, the macrocosm, as above, so below, etc. So that Lemuria falls just after Walpurgisnacht and Beltane. There's a thinning of the veil between Beltane and Midsummer that you can. I kind of see it like a wormhole. I watch too much sci-fi. So, you know, wormholes get you from A to B in a much quicker time. It might be a bit bumpy, but it's quicker than going around the houses. So that's kind of how I see this time. And Lemuria is a really cool way to explore, you know, your connection to spirit, your connection to your higher self, your higher consciousness, however you want to describe that. Because the veil is thin, it's easier to poke holes in it. And some people might not like that idea. I think it's quite cool, actually, and I think it's always very interesting to explore, to look under those, you know, to look in the dark spaces and what's that in there, because, you know, there is no thing, no person, or there is nothing in spirit which can hold sway over you unless you give it your permission. As we saw during 2020, when people go, yeah, okay, I comply, and all manner of stuff happens. But if you don't give your consent, you don't give your permission, then you are the one in charge. You know, you're the one in the driver's seat. So, you know, if you know that, then you can walk this. You know, it's like walking. It's the walking in the liminal space between the worlds, if you like. So there are ways that you can tap into this energy of the thinner veil and Lemuria. Many ways you can do that. And we do. So what we're doing tomorrow? I think we're doing crystal readings and something. I can't remember. Something else we're doing tomorrow. So what you need to remember when you're doing anything like this, any kind of divination work or path working meditation, anything that is taking you out of the mundane, is everything is magic. So if you have the magical eyes with which to see, you will see the signs on your synchromistic unfolding path as you walk your path, if that makes sense. There's an allowing of an unfolding, and part of the reason why we tap into this energy is it allows you to see your path, so you get a perspective, if that makes sense. So when it comes to divination, which plays a big part, so during this time between Beltane and Midsummer, there's a lot of festivals around prophecy, divination, connecting to spirit. There's quite a lot of it. So it's by no means just the Romans that were doing this stuff. So if you wanted to have a go, if you like, at divination, you can use tools, but you don't need tools. They're fun. Don't get me wrong. But the reason you don't need tools is because you are the one that holds the power to divine. Literally, we are divine, we divine, yeah. So the word divination, just as a little side note, there's many, it comes from many places, from Old French, from Latin, and it literally means the power to foresee or predict, but also to be inspired by a god. So that's your higher self, your higher consciousness, the real you, of which you are just a part of in an incarnate being, yeah. So you don't really need tools, because it's you. But you know, where's the theatre in just sitting there saying a bunch of stuff? Because it's fun. There's fun in doing tarot or reading from crystals or using a pendulum or spirit board or magic mirrors. You know, all those things, they're fun to do, and you can, you know, if you are into ritual, you know, you can make that into, you know, into a ritual thing. And the thing is, what's really cool is when you know that the tools you are using are just tools, then you know, you have that, there's a difference between knowing something in your being and just knowing something. I don't know if that makes sense. So if you're doing divination work, allow yourself to have fun with it, you know. It is like, life is supposed to be fun. I know we all get caught up in stuff, very serious stuff, but you know, we're here to have the experience of what it's like to be in a physical body. So if you are doing divination work, you might cast a circle if you're doing that, or you might not. I tend not to, because I I don't know, it's, unless we're doing like ritual. If we're just doing divination, I tend not to, but if we're doing ritual, then I will. Hang on, just turning my page. But one thing I would say, if you want to try divination, is definitely take time to prepare yourself and your space. So, you know, burn some incense, like mugwort or wormwood or something. I would do it in a darkened room as well, because I don't know, there's something about a darkened room which lends itself more to, especially if you're working with a magic mirror. That's an absolute must. But it's that idea of the darkened room is like the depths of the subconscious mind, if you like. So I'm just finding my place, sorry. So even if you're just pulling a card, for example, for the energy of the day, you know, you can even prepare for something like that. So just take the time to breathe. So the 4-4-8 breath pattern, so breathe in for 4, hold for 4, breathe out for 8, is an amazing way to ground, but also center and connect to your intuitive self before you pull that card. So it doesn't have to be like a full-on ritual. You know, you can just pull a card. You know, and there's some amazing cards, and don't talk to me about crystals. I have many crystals that I use for, you know, doing readings. Even things like, I don't even know how to say that word properly, ogum sticks. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but they're ancient. Are they druid? I can't remember. But they're just amazing for doing readings. You know, just to quickly pull a stick out of the bag and take your reading. Sorry, neighbour's car. So what's the purpose of divination? Some people swear by it, other people wouldn't go near it with a barge pole. So a lot of people just use it for guidance. So if you feel stuck, or if you want to read the energy of a situation, for example, before you go in and do something. But essentially, you're connecting to something which is way bigger than you. So that essentially is the part of yourself which your higher self, your higher consciousness, is what you're essentially connecting to. So how that works, so in soul realignment, one of the things that before your soul incarnates into a physical being, it's like it can see all the possibilities, all the timelines, all at once. And it will choose the very best timeline for you at that moment through the lens of all the negative karmic stuff. So it's like if you're wearing a pair of sunglasses and they're very dirty except for one tiny little bit that you can see clearly through, obviously you're not going to get the big picture, if that makes sense. You will see a tiny little sliver, and you know you can only make a decision based on the clarity of that tiny little bit that you can see through. I hope that makes sense. So the idea when you are connecting to the part of yourself that is bigger than the bit that's incarnated is when you're connecting that to that in divination work, is that your soul knows the path that has been set, which you can then use that knowledge to then, with intention, you can do something. You can set your intention to allow that path to be illuminated. Does that make sense? So when your path is unfolding in front of you and you see a signpost that is, you know, it's like it's got not just fairy lights on it, it's like got a Belisha beacon on the top of it. You can't miss it. So you can actually set that intention through divination work. It's something we've been doing. This will be the 4th year we've actually been doing that with something that's called a psychomantium. So we align with love consciousness, which is the frequency of that is 432 hertz. So we align with love consciousness, we open the portal, and we basically set the intention that our unfolding path is literally like the yellow brick road, if you like. You can't miss it, and you can't miss the signs. That's actually a really interesting way of using divination work, or using divination. So one of the things that's important, it's important, when you're seeking answers, is your frame of mind. So it's almost like that non-attachment, that detachment from the outcome that you want. You have to get rid of that, because that will influence your answers, because it's coming from inside you. Yeah, this channeling, if you like, for want of a better word. So that centered being has to be there. You know, I always say in witchcraft, you know, that there are no rules, but there are a couple. If you cast, you close, and it's that middle path. Because otherwise your answers are going to be tainted by your need to have the right answer because you want a specific outcome. Does that make sense? So even when using a pendulum, because there might be a maybe in there, but it's usually yes or no. There's a a way of structuring a sentence where the pendulum can actually answer your question, yes or no. And what you can do with that is you could have a list of questions with where you can kind of drill down the answer. Does that make sense? Or you could have a chart and ask it, is it, if it was on a sliding scale, for example, you could ask it if it was more than 50, which would equal one type of energy, or is it less than 50 for another type of energy, usually the opposite, if that makes sense. So there are ways that you can use a pendulum to drill down quite far for an answer, specific answers. Or you can use multiple divination tools together, which can be really good if you're using, for example, cards with crystals, or I like to use cards and the ogham sticks. I really like using those together because it just gives you a little bit more clarity. I've already said that bit. I jumped ahead there on myself. So other kind of tools, I suppose, you can use for divination. So we talked about a little bit about pendulums, cards. Crystals is a really good one. I used to do when I had a Facebook group, I used to do crystal readings. So I'd lay them out with numbers like next to them, and people would choose 3 numbers, so 3 crystals, and then I would do a reading on them. And crystals are amazing because you can have a bit like cards, but I find crystals are a little bit more fluidic with their answers. You can have a person choose, 2 people choose the same crystal, but it can be a completely different reading for each person. And I find that amazing because they're alive, they're living beings. So their frequency or how they resonate with different people. I mean, you'll know that if you ever held a crystal in your hand and it buzzes in your hand, or you get the little drops of water underneath it and on your hand when it's very active, and you give it to someone else and they go, no, I don't feel that. And you go, what? How can you not feel that? But it's not the right crystal for them. So you can get very different readings for 2 different people with 1 crystal. You can even do divination with candles. That's quite an interesting one. A black bowl full of water can act as a scrying surface, which is an interesting one to do. You can even use cornflakes. Yes, you can use cornflakes for divination purposes, because it's not the tool, it's you. We've got this really cool thing that we do. Where we live, you've got salt marshes and freshwater marshes, and you've got a big road that goes right through the middle of it, which is called the A206, and you get lots of lorries going up and down there. And so we do A206 divinations. So we started that back in 2020 again. So we set the parameters of, you know, what things mean, if that makes sense, and then we ask questions. We call the people that answer them architects. So it's a bit of a matrix thing there. And then we get answers from the writing on the sides of lorries, and we have had some mad messages, absolutely phenomenal messages over the years. So, I mean, other things. I mean, you don't necessarily it might not be answers, I don't know if that makes sense, that you are looking for. It might be insights, which isn't really the same as answers. That's more guidance than a straight answer, if that makes sense. I like to call these insights plops. Because that's what it feels like. That's what it feels like. When you get that information, it's like a plop. So I call them plops. So Ian's very much, because he's a trained psychic medium. So he actually sees spirit. I don't see spirit. I hear them and I smell them, but I don't see them. But he sees them like they're people, which I find, I wish I could do that. But I get other stuff. So he gets his quite direct. He very rarely uses cards. He will use pendulum and crystals. But he gets his is very direct. But then that's what he's trained in. So part of what we do is very much about the allowing the unfolding of the synchro-mystic journey, the path, it weaves, because they're. I heard that today actually, and I've heard it multiple times over the past few days. There are no straight lines in nature, so it's not a straight path. Even a wormhole, it's not straight. It bends and weaves and twists. I was just saying that. So yeah, this unfolding path, and we're all doing that. We are all on this path. It's just whether you realize it or not. So in the allowing of, again, this is your connection to your higher self, your higher consciousness, by allowing that part of you, that bigger part of you, to guide you on this path. It is quite magical, and it's those synchronicities that are just, yeah. I love when people tell me the stories of their synchro-mystic journey. I get really excited and grinny when people tell me that their synchro-mystic journeys and how they got from A to B through the wormhole. Because it's really exciting. It's a lot more exciting than what a lot of people experience as life. Which most people, I don't know, I suppose in our experience, most people don't see life as a magical thing. And it is pure magic, because everything is magic. I know I keep saying that, but it is. So was there anything else that I wanted to say around Lemuria? I mean, I think I would definitely don't fear this stuff, because all it is really is your connection to your you. There's no other way to say it. It's your connection to you. So you are a spirit in a body. So a spirit that is no longer in a body has no more right to be to haunt you, for want of a better word. Couldn't think of any other word. Than, you know, a person down the street has of, I don't know, breaking into your home. You know, it's like, no. So, you know, never ever fear this stuff. And I will say, up until I started walking this path intentionally, because for many years I walked it without a clue. I was going around in circles for many years. But when I got on this path intentionally, all the things that I was scared of, to do with the paranormal, to do with the spirit world, to do with anything that I couldn't see, I was scared of. So I definitely wouldn't say that now. In fact, sometimes people scare me more than what's behind the veil. So yeah, don't fear this stuff, because it has no power over you. I hope that makes sense. Unless you give it permission. Because you're the one in charge. So, you know, divination work is, I don't know, it's pure magic, because you are connecting to that which is, that can see everything, definitely. We've still got 13 minutes left, so if anyone has any questions, I'm going to throw it open. If anyone has any questions about what I've talked about, what I've waffled on about. Does anyone have any questions, or like to share any experiences of, you know, how?
I'll quickly jump on. I always try and jump on at this point of a show to thank you, Angie, the show host. Your first show, we had a big glitch right in the middle at the beginning, but yeah, no, happy days. It's all settled down now. We've appeased the gremlins.
Indeed, yes.
I'm going to say that I am going to be looking forward to each show, because this subject of, or the subjects that you're discussing, talking about, and obviously the forthcoming shows that you're going to do, from a pagan point of view, for me, pagan is just anything that isn't one of the monotheistic cults.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Romans were pagan, the Druids were pagan, the atheists are pagan, the Neanderthals were pagan. Anything that isn't of those three are pagan, which basically means, I think that there's a few twists and turns as to what the meaning of the word pagan is. But what I would want to ask you is, what is the meaning, or what is your understanding of the term witchcraft, or a witch? What is a witch, and what is witchcraft?
So, for me, a witch it's an old word, spelt W-I-C-C-E. So it was never Wicca. It was, I don't know how they would pronounce that, Wicca, I don't know. But it meant, you know, someone who was wise, someone who knew stuff that other people didn't know. So that was usually around medicine, but also, you know, divination. You know, if anyone's ever watched Vikings, you know, they had a seer in the camp who would tell them when it was right to sail, who would tell them when someone strange was going to come into their village, you know. So witches would fulfill that, because they were usually on the outskirts as well. They were outsiders, or what does Stuart Wilde call them? Fringe dwellers. So they were, and I think they would have to be, if you are, doing that kind of work. You wouldn't want to be part of the foray, would you? You'd want to be away from all that, so you could focus on your craft, because it is a craft. And I mean, for me, the word craft means that's your energy, your connection to divine source energy is what you create with. So witchcraft is someone who creates reality, if you like, through their wisdom.
The reason why I ask is that if anybody's listening to the show live now or listens back onto the recording, over the years I've become very it's become apparent to me that people who are of not this kind of ilk, thinking or outlook or inward looking type of people, when they hear the term witch, they automatically designate that as something bad, as something evil, as something, and if you try and convince them of anything else other than that, then they get very defensive and they get very agitated, because it goes against the brainwashing, basically, of what they've been told to believe these words mean. So that's why I was asking, just so that you could clear, if anyone was listening or is listening or will listen back on the recording, they understand that these terms, for me, a witch was basically, traditionally, it's just a nature giving person who uses nature's gifts to heal, like you explained a moment ago. Uses nature's gifts to see when the time is to sow the crops ready for the new ready for harvest, and when's the best time to sail, like you said, using the Vikings. So these is what, for me, what witches were. Whether what their intentions are is the most important thing, I think, and I think that's where people get confused. It's not about, you're a witch, you must be dark and evil, and it's like, no, that's just nonsense, that's just propaganda.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to shut up. If there's anybody else wants to jump in and say anything, please feel free, and ask your questions at Angie.
Absolutely.
Hello, may I jump in quickly, please?
Hello, Val.
Hello, Angie. I hope this is an easy question to answer.
Yeah.
I mean, thank you first for enlightening us, because I knew nothing about what you've talked to us. Lemuria was just another time, like Atlantis to me.
Yeah.
Before. So I'm just curious, and I don't know if you can answer this, but if you can, and I appreciate it will probably be different for different people, have you experienced a specific energy that you could attach to Lemuria, or you could explain to yourself that, this is Lemurian energy? Because I'm curious as to how you perceive it.
So Lemuria as in the landmass, or this particular?
No, what you're talking about tonight. So the Roman festival, if you like, for a better word. This particular time that we're in now, this week, can you identify a specific energy that you can say to yourself, this is the energy of Lemuria?
I wouldn't necessarily say specifically Lemuria, but there's definitely, since Beltane, I have noticed a lot more happenings on the synchromistic path.
Yes, I'll go along with that after my message to you today, yes.
So it's like, I think last week, there was one day, it was just coming thick and fast. I'm like, whoa. And things slotting, like things unfolding in such a way where it's just like one thing after another slotting into place. It's like this doing this radio show. I mean, 2 weeks ago, I would not have thought I'd be sitting here doing this.
Yeah.
It wasn't even on my radar.
So that's interesting, isn't it? So you're saying in a way it's kind of perhaps manifests, or it shows itself as a manifesting type energy for you? Or it enhances?
Yeah, it's an amplifying of the connection, the kind of connection to spirit or soul. For me, the word soul kind of is probably close enough, and that guidance on that it's one of the things I found most difficult is to not act before receiving that guidance. I'll try and push everything all the time, but no, I don't do that anymore, or I try not to. So I allow that guidance to come through, and it's almost like I'm a robot, but obviously I'm not a robot. But that's what it feels like. It feels like there's something else that's directing me. I'm not in control of that anymore.
Okay.
Sounds a bit freaky, I know, but...
No, it's fine. There's nothing much you can tell me that sounds freaky. Okay, that's great. Thank you, Angie.
That's all right.
Thanks for explaining that, because, I'll kind of look out for it now and see what my experience is as well. Yeah, thank you.
Cool. Anyone else like to share, or...?
Yeah, I'd just like to come in and say thank you so much. I've really enjoyed the show. It's Dolly. I do a Wednesday.
Dolly. Yes.
So yeah, I did have a couple of questions, but I think what I'm going to do is, because they're probably quite long answers, is I'll leave it until next week and then ask you the questions next week, if that's all right.
Yeah, if it's up to you. I don't mind. Cause I know there's a show coming up at 7, isn't there? So.
Andy's a show at. I don't think there's a show at 7, is there?
Not this evening. Next Thursday, Shalina will be doing. She does it every fortnight. So obviously tonight. No, you're more than welcome to carry on. You don't have to. Knock it on the head at 7 o'clock. You can go well over that the evening is free. But you don't have to keep the recording going. If you wanted to, you could stop the recording. And then what we normally do, if there's no show afterwards, we normally have like an after show chat where we can have an informal talk about what we've all just heard, and have an open discussion about it, or something completely different. Usually, it's entirely up to the people that are in the after show.
Or I could just ask me questions.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so a couple of questions.
Yeah.
My first question is, when did you wake up? When did you start connecting to spirit, and when did you become a witch?
Okay, so when did I wake up? I think I always was when I was a kid, because I went for. I didn't speak for a very long time when I was a child, and I didn't smile a lot either, because it wasn't terrible, my childhood, but it wasn't great either. So I didn't smile a lot. I didn't speak, and I used to spend a lot of time on the front doorstep pondering the meaning of life. So I think there was always something that was. And the moon as well. The moon used to shine in my window when it was full, and it used to scare me because I knew there was something about it that was powerful. I also, oh my goodness, I used to get that, and I know now it wasn't a feeling of the walls closing in. It was actually an expansive energy. But as a child, because my parents didn't know anything about spiritual stuff, but I thought it was what I would experience was what I thought was claustrophobia, but it wasn't, because I had the same experience like 30 years later, and it was actually an expansion of consciousness. So I was having those experiences as a child and didn't know what they were, and they used to scare me because I was scared of everything. But I suppose having a child woke me up big time. And that was he's 22 this year, so yeah, however, whenever that was, 2002, sorry. That shook me out of my slumber big time. And I dabbled as a witch since I was 20. Joined a coven, left the coven, joined another coven, left the coven. Didn't enjoy the coven experience at all. Didn't like being told what to do. When to shut up. I didn't like that either. But it was really only in, I think it was 2015, when I very deliberately got on the path and was initiated, and yeah, haven't looked back. Does that answer your question, Dolly? I hope so.
Yes, it does. Just to say, I will message you after the show, because I would like to get you on as a guest if you'd like that.
Oh, I'd love that. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
But yeah, no, that's perfect. And I'd like to hear more about your story. So thank you so much. I've really enjoyed your first show, and I'm looking forward to next week.
Cool, thank you. Anyone else?
Just a quick one.
Yep.
As a child, and you mulled over the concept of the meaning of life, what was your conclusion?
I wanted to be a bird, and I wanted to fly away. I was envious. I envied the birds because they could just fly away.
Did you figure out the meaning of life? Did you get to that point where you thought, I know the meaning of life?
No, I didn't actually. I was very well, my theme tune that used to go around in my head was Simon and Garfunkel, I Am a Rock. So no, I did not figure out the meaning of life. I just shut myself up and didn't.
Fair enough. And have you subsequently figured it out, or have you? Are you still trying to find out what the meaning is?
Well, it's love, isn't it? That's it. Love, or love consciousness, as we called it.
As you, as a child growing up through adolescence, yeah, I pondered no matter where you grow up, you're always surrounded by your adult surroundings that you pick up on things. So I always sort of like, well, what's the meaning of life? People seem to talk about it and ask it, and you hear it, people been discussing it in various different situations all the time. So yeah, I pondered the meaning of life and came to the conclusion that the meaning of life is life itself, or without it, life has no meaning, so therefore fill it with love, peace and happiness.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Anyone else have a question or want to share anything?
I've just jumped in, so I'm not really sure what I could ask.
Okay. Hi, Deborah.
Hi, Deborah. Yeah, this is Andy. I just asked Deborah to jump on. We're going to have a bit of a chat because Deborah's looking at starting her own show, possibly.
Oh, cool.
At some point in the future. So, normally what I do is, like I did with you, Angie, I normally try and get potential presenters to jump on and have a go, just in a normal chat conversation. But whilst we've got a live broadcast going on, I just invited Deborah over to jump in, and she's come on and joined in. So
cool.
Hey, yep.
Fabulous. What have you been talking about? It sounds good. Meaning of
life. Old pagan Roman festival called Lemuria, and divination and witchcraft and the meaning of life.
Cool. So when I jumped in, it seemed to be the answer was life has meaning when it exists.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, if it doesn't exist, then all you have is the void space. So, yeah. Cool.
It's a bit like the philosophy, isn't it, of if we don't exist, we don't see anything, and does that then not exist also? There's a bit of philosophical thinking there.
Absolutely. I like that.
Well, I think we've narrowed the listeners down now to yourself, myself, Jackie, and Deborah.
Yes.
Everyone else has filtered off now. The recording's still going, so if you want to say some final words, Angie, and then stop the recording, and you know where to find it now, don't you? In the saved messages bit, you can then post the. In fact, you can post both files.
Yeah. Oh, blimey.
On the Holistic Radio group.
Okay, so next week, bear with me 1 second while I go and get my calendar. So next week, it's loading, which is Thursday the 16th. No, yes. Wow, that's going quickly. That is going to be a talk about love consciousness. So this, the kind of idea behind, what is everything made out of, So it's love. It's love consciousness. So that'll be the talk for next week. So I hope people will come and listen to that one as well. Yeah, it's been really good. I've really enjoyed it, and yeah, looking forward to the next one. It's really cool. Thank you, Andy, for letting me jabber on.
Can you remember how to stop it? Do you want me to stop it for you?
I need to stop recording, don't I? Stop recording.
Yeah. Yeah, do the stop recording and not the leave and close the show down, just the stop recording bit.
So then
you've done that. Yeah.
So then it's the leave button. Is that right? Yeah.
Yes, yeah, but don't tick the tick box.
Yes.
Because that will close the whole show if you just press leave without the tick box.